welcome to Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colston, and of course, I'm here with my friends, Isaiah Tukes, Kimmy Lake, The Real Reed, and this book for the month of November, I Take My Coffee Black by Mr. Tyler Merritt. So, all right. So if you're new to Four Friends in the Book, it's our monthly podcast series. We have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. And so, of course, we meet here to discuss that book, to review it, to talk about it, and just talk about things that may or may not relate to it. And of course, at the end, we hit you with these rants from none other than Mr. Rant Man himself, Mr. Isaiah Tukes. So again, Four Friends in the Book, we're a book club, book reviewers, mixed with just table talk amongst friends. So if you're new, please go back, check out our old episodes, get current and caught up with Four Friends in the Book. We have great book discussions, great books, and great just topics and conversation over here. So definitely go back, get current, get caught up, just join the Four Friends crew over here because we're doing big things. So again, the book for this month, I Take My Coffee Black by Mr. Tyler Merritt. Interesting read for this month. Somewhat in the, I don't know what you really categorize.
I guess like a
this by
memoir kind of.
Memoir, kind of autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a quick, excerpt from the book. So to begin, Tyler says, and I quote, "We are not monolithic. This book is dedicated to the beautiful, diverse people that we are and to the stories that have made us." So I Take My Coffee Black is kind of Tyler's, I guess, story, him kind of conveying his growing up in Las Vegas, being a theater kid, getting into music, acting, all those things. He just kind of tells us his life story, some ups, some downs, some highs, some lows. I mean, he's very transparent within this book. And so good selection for this month of November. So we're going to talk about it and we're going to discuss this book, I Take My Coffee Black by Mr. Tyler Merritt. Look, and I'm going to kick this one off because...
Okay.
I'm going to be honest.
Go ahead, Doc. Okay.
So this is one of the good things of being in the book club and kind of just being here, because I don't think I would have ever picked this book up on my own.
Right.
Didn't know much about Tyler Merritt at all. Wasn't really familiar with him. I think he's kind of, became, I guess, very notable within the kind of the Black Lives Matters movement. He went viral, had a few viral videos that have kind of, I guess, gained some awareness of who he is and kind of his movements and his, his organizations and some of the things that he's been doing. And so I think that has kind of spun him into writing books and other things as well. But yeah, I wasn't really very well aware of him prior to this. So again, the positive of being in the book club and just kind of being immersed and kind of really forced to read things you may not even be kind of always on your reading list or things you would normally pick up is a great positive of, being here on Four Friends in the Book. So interesting read for me. Like I said, I don't think I would have picked it up on my own, but a great story. Tyler Merritt, very transparent. I mean, look, he putting his life story out here from childhood, being a theater kid, growing up in Las Vegas, kind of having his little weird, awkward stages of life and growing up, even getting into his look, he had some scandals, y'all. He got a little juicy life story. But I just appreciate his transparency. Just kind of really putting things out there about his life and kind of the highs and the lows and how he's overcome certain aspects. If I had to rate this book,
I'm like,
on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm gonna give it. I'm kind of neutral here. I'm gonna give it a 5. It wasn't a.
Whoa. Okay, buddy. Oh, buddy.
Look at this guy. So again, not a bad book. not really my category per se. So I can't really say it was a great book. Interesting story. Overall, good read. Like I said, I don't think I would have ever picked this book up, but I am happy that I read it.
Are you?
Are you?
No, give it.
Are
you happy? You're not happy.
Really didn't have
You're
to
not
read,
happy.
but
it's middle of the road. You know, it ain't no 2 now. Look, Isaiah don't have no room to talk about nobody. He be giving out, 3s and 4s. But yeah, it was okay. It was okay. So yeah, 5, 6 ish maybe. But yeah, it's just kind of just middle of the road for me. It was an interesting story. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Isaiah this episode.
I see.
Look, coming to Miss Kimberly Lake next. So again, I kind of kicked this show off, but y'all know what it is. First question: what did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? So,
okay, I listened to this book on Audible. He read it. I did. I can tell he's a theater kid because it was dramatic. Like the pauses and the crying, and it's kind of, so for me, that kind of stuff took me out a little bit. For me, it felt a little disingenuous, a little bit like it was like an act. So when he was reading some stuff, I was like, okay, all right. But overall, when I was listening to the book, I couldn't put my finger on it till about halfway through because I was not really connecting with the book or enjoying it really. And then halfway through, it came to me. It's because I feel like I am not the intended audience for the book, because I feel like the book is written from a Black man's perspective to educate white people on the diversity of Black people. And it just sounds like it's not like when we read the Guide to Mental Health. What's the first part? The
unapologetic.
Yeah. Like when you read that, you're reading it because she was writing to us and you could understand it. But when he was his voice in the book, to me, is kind of like, I'm educating white people on Black people. Like, this is how we are. This is how we're different. This is what we go through. And then when I went to the reviews on Amazon, a lot of white people have read this book and love it. And like when Jimmy Kimmel did the forward, because he's like, I was looking for somebody to come on the show. And Tyler, I think that's his audience. He has a thing for, educating white people about race and all that. So I didn't really connect with the book. I think he had an interesting story. But for me, I was like, I already knew what he was talking about. Like, so he was writing things like, talking about Tupac or this, but I'm like, I already know about that stuff. But it's because he wasn't really trying to educate us. I think it was because he was trying to educate white people or people that aren't Black about Black culture and how we all can be different, how we grow up. So with that being said, I don't think it's a terrible book, but for me, I just didn't have a connection with it. So I actually would also rate it a 5, not because it's bad, but just in the middle. It's a good book, but I don't think I'm just the audience for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
see, look, now y'all had me thinking I was on the island out here.
I didn't think she was gonna say a 5 though.
I didn't say that either. Like she was
like a dog,
like a middle.
She threw me out the car.
She was like, it was a good book. I give it a 5.
What 5?
Well,
it's middle. That's middle.
Yeah. Well, so look, apparently me and Kim on the same page on this book, and what I'm kind of hearing that Isaiah and Laria maybe have a different take, so maybe they're a little higher. So I'm coming to my brother next, man. What were your thoughts about this book? Again, I Take My Coffee Black by Tyler Merritt, and what would you rate it?
I'm kind of biased to memoirs. Like I like to hear people's stories. I like to hear people think, how they live their lives. With Tyler, I kind of found him when he did go viral, I think in 2018 and 2020. So that's when I realized, who he was. So I think this is my second time reading the book. So that's how interesting the book was to me as well, too. Like Kim say, like he educated people on Blackness and how we are and how we think and how we do it, not just for us to us, but how we go into the world. It's so different. Like when you centered around like a like in a white audience, like especially if you work around a lot of white people, and we sometimes not have to dumb down ourselves, but you know, they'll look at you like you can't be so tough. You can't always have that blackness, but it just should be in yourself. But I like the way that he breaks that down, the way that quirkiness out of him. Like normally I read so many heavy type of books. Like this is like a breath of fresh air for me of reading his story as well. Like you don't see a lot of black people in that theater world. Like he's an actor. He went to Nashville, Tennessee. I thought that Kim was gonna connect to that as well too. Like he went to Nashville, started his own band, like the Broken Frames. So I like he telling his story. He come from that military background. So you know, I like his story with him growing up in the South. Not him growing up in the South, but his grandparents was from the South, and I think that's what resonated a lot. Like we have the same qualities, like how we grew up and stuff. So you know, he brings a lot of humor. He brings a lot of reality. Not so that he touches a lot of racism, but he tells you how to deal with them. And like Chris said earlier, like he had a lot of he was very transparent in his book, especially like when he was hurt by a woman. He went out and hurt people. Like, you know, he was a human being. No matter how good you are now, we all have a story. We all have a past. So I think that, you know, with Tyler, and one thing I did like about Tyler, like his defensive mechanism, like sometimes like when something is so heavy, he likes to bring humor to that. And I think that I resonate with that as well, too. I like not to be so much heavy all the time. Like, you know, that's what I was agreeing with him on. Like, I see you, Tyler. I get you. Sometimes laughter makes the heavy stuff easy to swallow. And I felt him, and I understand that part of it. You know, I thought this memo was a great read. I read it twice, and I rated it a 9.
Okay.
So I was at the other end of the spectrum from you.
Okay, so we got 2 5s and a 9 so far. For I take my coffee black.
Laria, bring it home, Laria.
I don't think I've ever rated anything under a 6 or a 7. I'm just trying to think. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I don't think I've ever even done that.
Okay. Well,
you ready for me to go, Chris? I'm sorry.
Spotlight on you.
Okay. Well, everything you guys said was really what I was thinking, and I really mean that. When I was reading it, and he was like, yeah, when I got in the theater, I said, you know what? That's what it is, because he's a theater kid, you know, and I've always wanted to know what theater kids are really, especially Black theater kids, what, you know, because it's a certain kind of personality that they have. And Kim kind of touched on it with, you know, because I was like, he sure is dramatic. Like when he first started, he's like, let's call my mom and see what she said about that. And I'm like, what? So, you know, then he was like, theater. I'm like, oh, it started. I was connecting the dots as it went. One thing that I did think when I was listening to the book, and I listened on Audible, was because I was kind of struggling through reading it because I couldn't identify a lot with a lot. I could identify, but it was like, you know, like, okay, you know, it wasn't like, oh, wow, you know,
right.
But it was like, okay, you know, I could identify with him. But at the same time, I was thinking, what was I thinking? Y'all, I just had a whole perimenopause moment. Hold on. When I was look, let me go back. When I was, what was I about to say? Lord Jesus, I just went blank. Okay. When I was listening to his book, and he was, just because I kind of, how should I say it? I kind of grew up in a similar situation as him, but different. And his personality, I couldn't just, you know, I felt like I'm Martin and he was Friends. Okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's like, and I was just trying to, you know, because I'm thinking I take my coffee black. This would be a Black book, you know, about his Black experience. And he still was having his Black experience. It just was from a different way. And so I didn't want to discredit how good of a book it was. It was solidly written. It was a solid book. It was good. It was his experience. He was very honest, and he told it the way that he could tell it, you know? And so I respect that. I thought it was, like I said, it was a good read. For someone else, I could really totally, it was kind of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know how white people like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Mm-hmm. Wait, that's my favorite show.
Uh-oh.
But, it's a half and half. Once again, it's not Martin. Martin is blackity black. Fresh Prince is like, introducing white people to black culture. So I just feel like he was more along that lines. He had some cheesy stuff in there, just like Will would have on Fresh Prince sometimes. They would do some cheesy stuff sometimes as black people we watch and be like, okay. But so I think it was a great book, solid read, and I appreciated him giving me the experience of knowing what a theater kid, the mindset and what they think and how they, because theater kids, they're just quirky and they're cool, but I've just never had a good friend that was a theater kid, and that's really what he is. So I give the book a solid 7. I'll give him a 7.
Okay.
I think it was still good, but it wasn't my cup of tea, but it was a good book.
Okay.
So you don't take your coffee black?
No.
Blackity black. Blackity black, black.
A little cream and sugar, huh? A little cream and sugar. All right. So 2 5s, a 9, and a 7. So again, the book for November, I take my coffee black, Tyler Merritt. And Larry, I think you touched on a good point. So his experience, his environment, which is, maybe somewhat different from some of us. Isaiah sounds like he might be Tyler Merritt. I don't know. He's just
because he's read it twice. Okay.
It was just a really good read.
It's a good read. Yeah, it is a very good read. It's a good read.
Yeah, but again, him just growing up in Las Vegas, so he has roots, to the South. His parents grew up in Alabama. They even sent him down south for the summer or whatever. But just him being in that melting pot of growing up in Las Vegas, get into theater, going to a Christian college, starting a rock band, so all these things. it is a different environment, different perspective, and so he definitely shines a lot of light into his life, the ups and downs of some scandals with him being getting into becoming a youth pastor, messing with getting caught up with some women.
Right, youth pastor.
Just a whole bunch of stuff. But again, very transparent.
Very.
And really just giving his perspective, which was again kind of different. Him being a theater kid and kind of just into a lot of different aspects. And I think that may be primarily due to him just, growing up in such a diverse place as well. But Isaiah kind of already touched on it a little bit, but just to kind of pull that thread a little more, were there any particular things within his story that really stood out and resonated with you guys, with just his overall experience of growing up? Also, again, we kind of touched on him being a theater kid, being in a band, getting into ministries, and just, of course, going viral with his 2018 video, Before You Call the Cops, which was kind of a true kind of awakening moment of him kind of conveying the Black experience and also showing that, we as a people, as a race of people, aren't monolithic, and there are so many different diverse aspects of us. But any particular point that kind of stood out in the book that you want to kind of touch on? Isaiah, I'm actually come back to you again, man, because I know you kind of, I already touched on it a little bit, but just kind of pull that thread a little bit further. What really stood out to you as he told his story?
I think it was just more than him being like this 6-foot Black man, which I resonated with that as well. Like, but his experience with like faith and in the church and being spot on, especially like with growing up, like I had that white experience. And one of the reasons why I chose to go to HBCU, like I wanted to be around more of us to get that us to see how we think. Like, I wasn't a military kid, but I had I had a lot of different friends. So I wanted to be around the HBCU experience to get that more of that Black, not just saying we get that Blackness from HBCU, but you understand what I'm saying. And one thing that I did want to touch on as well too, like those summers growing up in the South, I remember those dirt roads and you just playing as a child. Like those are the things I think I missed the most as well too, being at my grandparents' house and just playing, being in like that childlike experience. And another thing I do want to touch on as well too, like I think he kind of mentioned it, like when you from the South, back then, like you'll see one white Baptist church on one side of the road, then you'll see a black Baptist church on the other side of the road. And I think our good friend Kim actually did a documentary on this, like called Segregated Sundays.
I did. Thank you, Isaiah.
we can plug this as well into the link to that documentary as well too. Like she actually dives into like how that came about, like the history of that as well too. So I think when I read all that, especially viewing Kim's documentary, it made sense of why I resonated with that faith growing, that homebody as well too, like that family guy. So those are the things I resonated with him as well too.
That's good. Tyler, I'm gonna bump him up to a 6 because of that, Isaiah.
Okay. And I thought because you're so free spirit, I thought you would have been, this is your person.
She said no, 5.
No.
You stand on it, Kim. Stand on your 5.
Okay. Well, yeah, good plug. So yeah, again, if you guys haven't already know, we have a movie creator over here that she's produced a documentary called Segregated Sundays, which kind of goes into the history of that. So not only is she rocking out here on Four Friends in the Book, she has her own thing as well. So check out her documentary. It's also available on YouTube, and we'll drop the link for that. Coming to Laria next. So kind of same question. What really resonated with you within this book, his story of kind of him just kind of conveying his life, growing up in Vegas, being a theater kid, starting a rock band, get into the ministry, all those things. Was there a particular point that really kind of resonated with you as you were reading or listening to his story?
Well, the first thing he kept talking about Bon Jovi, he was like, yeah, I used to listen to Bon. When he said that, I was like, what? He said, who? We talking about a black guy? I was like, okay. That was the first thing that kind of stuck out because he kept saying it like, I just wanted to go home and listen to my Bon Jovi. And I'm like, what? But anyway, then he talked about Silk and some other people from the 90s. I was like, okay, where I can identify, okay, we were Jodeci and all that. Okay. So he listened to R&B as well. He just, he was just, once again, a quirky guy. But the thing that I really admired about him was his parents. And I think that was a big thing that shaped him when he talked about how his father went into the military and figured out he was smart enough, like, to say, which one is not going to fight? Okay, I can go in the Air Force. Okay, I can pass that test and do well. And he figured that out so that he could have a better life for him, and married his mom, and they moved to Las Vegas. And not only was his father very smart in math and science and was able to get, his job working on a base and in the field of in the Air Force, his mom was climbing the corporate ladder on her own, being a bank branch manager and all that in like the 80s. And that was like a big deal, 70s and 80s. So I think that was just phenomenal for them to set him up to be who he is, because if that wouldn't have happened, he probably wouldn't be the person that he is today, and have the options that he has to be able to even write a book and talk from his experience, because he probably would have been a theater kid, but it talked about how he was in a setting where the teacher said, hey, I want him to be, to do theater, which put him in that atmosphere with other people. So I just think that it's really cool sometimes to go to the root of things. And I really enjoyed the talk about his parents. I really thought that was really cool. They were from a small town in Alabama and were able to make something out of nothing by, staying the course, going to school, doing what they had to do to make a better life for him so that he could have those experiences to talk to us about, Black culture. So that was the thing that was phenomenal to me. I just thought that was awesome. Not saying that other parents haven't done that, but just to hear from his perspective was cool.
Yeah.
Sound like you had a 9, Laria.
What he say?
To a 9.
Look,
still a 7. It's a 7.
Look, he really pulling for Tyler on this one, which is kind of crazy because Isaiah
he never
is
does
the person.
That. Right.
He never does that. He loves his book. That's good.
Yeah, he's the one that's always having the lower ratings on all these books.
Right.
He pulling for this one, so apparently he does take his coffee black.
Okay.
Literally.
I love it.
All right. Coming to Kim next. Any, I guess, points of the book, stories, topics that really just resonated with you as you were reading or listening to this book? I Take My Coffee Black by Tyler Merritt.
I think Isaiah touched on it earlier, but what I did resonate with him in, like, you know, our military background, because I grew up a military brat in the Air Force. So him growing up around a lot of different types of people and races and all that, I can identify with that because I did. So I think that really does shape you as a child when you're exposed to a lot of different cultures and people. So I could relate to him on that. So me and Tyler, we were good. The Air Force brat, military brat thing, we were good on that. And I like the story when his mom got on the phone, if you listened on Audible, and talked about her working on the bank, like Laria said. And she was just real sharp and smart. And I'm always going to be for a woman that's real sharp about her business. And I just liked how she was like, you know, don't say she, just say this person will come see you, because she's like, look, when they get in front of me, if you about your business, I know what I'm doing. And she was confident in what she could talk about. So she's like, once they see me and hear me, they're gonna hire me anyway. So I just like the attitude of his mother as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, like I say, he kind of just go over his whole life story. So he includes his parents. Again, they were in small town in Alabama. So he has those kind of southern roots, but he's now been, you know, kind of transplanted or moved out west to Vegas, where it's, again, a melting pot of all different races and nationalities. And just his experience. I think the part that really resonated with me was, again, I think he grew up kind of, again, the 80s, 90s baby or whatever. So similar things as far as just music and how, I guess, fundamental that was at the time. I mean, just being able to be exposed to different stuff. So I remember my little, you know, Smashing Pumpkins and Red Hot Chili Pepper days of like being exposed to rock as well. So like watching MTV, just being exposed to all these different music, different genres of music, and then kind of being able to connect with different people in different arenas just based off of that. And I think it definitely helps by him, you know, being out west in Vegas where you have a variety of people, but also just, again, kind of showing that we're not monolithic as people. And so there's a wide spectrum and a range of kind of things that we all kind of experience throughout life that kind of, you know, maybe connect us in some areas, but may, you know, separate us in others, but that we're not, just because you're a Black person, that you can't, you know, listen to rock or Bon Jovi, or that you can't have a rock band or be a theater kid. So I think those parts were very kind of interesting for me to hear his story. Even him, you know, getting into the ministry, you know, starting off being just talking to a football team. I mean, just speaking to them before the game and kind of connecting with the kids, of just being real and honest about his life, what he's gone through. I think those all kind of resonated with me, because I think that transparency is necessary, especially when you're dealing with like younger people, because I think adults often lead with like kind of this mystifying aura of that, like, we're just so different, or we haven't gone through similar things. Is I think his ability to connect at that level was necessary and kind of needed, especially with talking to the younger generation. So again, good book, great story. Wasn't per se my, you know, my cup of coffee, if we want to keep this little theme going. But I did appreciate his story. I did appreciate his transparency. I did appreciate him being able to convey to a wide spectrum of people in the audience of his experience and what he's gone through, just growing up and becoming the person and the man that he is now. So, all right, shifting gears a little bit. So I think, as you guys kind of mentioned, I think this book may have been kind of more geared towards conveying the Black experience or his experience to other people that may not be as familiar with just kind of Black culture. You know, even him mentioning, like, you know, growing up and how like gangs were a thing within his school, and how trying to navigate that whole thing of just being able to go into school and go into class and not wearing the wrong colors. And so to really be able to speak to that stuff. But one of his common themes throughout the book was really just talking about how proximity breeds empathy. And so being able to be in these different arenas and being in these different diverse groups kind of opens the door for empathy, and also to have those conversations that may not be that you may not normally be exposed to. And so pulling a quote from the book, which says, so proximity breeds empathy. And with empathy, humanity has a fighting chance. So really kind of showing that being in some of those arenas, some of those environments opens up the opportunity for us to have empathy and understanding towards one another, and to, you know, really have a more diverse and environment where we can have those maybe difficult conversations and show compassion and empathy for others based off of that proximity. So kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about that. Again, Tyler did go viral in 2018 for his video, Before You Call the Cops, which really kind of highlights his diversity, that, you know, he's a youth pastor, and like he may have this image that may be, I guess, kind of unsettling for some people. It's seeing this, you know, big, tall, black guy with dreads, but that he's so many more things outside of his perception or what you may perceive him to be. And so just kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about this whole this kind of empathy thing and how that may change the landscape or even the narrative as we kind of interact with other people in these different diverse groups or you know, different arenas. Laura, you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
Well, we're after the election, so I don't know how much empathy we really have.
You took the words out of my mouth.
I mean, I thought we had more empathy, but really we don't. So, I'm kind of in a. I don't know if I need to answer this on YouTube. Y'all can, if I run for office, y'all can. But you know what? I'm gonna speak truth to power. Okay. But I believe in having empathy, and I always try to put myself in other people's positions. And I just feel like in our culture, in day and time currently, I feel like that we don't have a lot of empathy. I feel like we have people who, and let me put it this way. I think we have people who empathize, but it's like, I'm empathize with you. Well, but sorry, you know, we're going to do it my way. And that's not true empathy. Empathy with change says, I empathize with you. Let me, you know, do this differently. Let's change this process so that you're included. And I don't feel like we had that in this country. And I think that what he was trying, I feel like his intentions are great and he may get through to some people, but I'm starting to realize more and more the older I get, I understand now why people who were in the civil rights movement trying to talk to them about certain things, they're really like, man, ain't nothing gonna change. We ain't gonna da-da-da-da-da. I get that now because I'm starting to see over and over. We've seen shooting after shooting, thing happen after happen. You know, he's written this book. He may get through to some people, and most of those people are open to want to hear about that. But it just feels like we're fighting an uphill battle. So I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, I guess with the climate we're in now, if you would have asked me over a week ago, I'd have a little more hope. But where I am today, currently, after that election and the way I saw that red, I feel like it was I'm not saying I don't have hope for the future, but I feel as though, you know, and I don't want to get into too much of the politics side of things yet, but I just feel like it was a let me put you in your place moment. And I think he's trying to get us out of that with what he's written about. When you see me, I'm one of the good ones. I'm like you, you know, I enjoy music like you do, you know, and it's like, why do I have to make myself look like a human to you for you to understand my experience? When that's just who I am. I'm a human, just like you. I'm just a little darker, you know? So after reading the book and then going through this election, it really kind of had me feeling some kind of way because I felt like I get what he's saying, but how much of this stuff, I mean, how much more do we have to do to prove that I'm a human being? You know what I'm saying? It's like we done wrote books. We got somebody telling you, I'm just like you. I grew up military family. My dad fought for this country, signed up for this. I'm doing all these things. I just happen to be tall, big black guy. Listen to me, and we just keep doing this over and over, but we still get shot back down. So it's like, but anyway, that's my spiel. Let me stop.
No, that's good. So I actually want to expand it a little further because we are fresh off of the election. So again, we're in November, fresh off the election. So Donald Trump has won the presidential election for the United States. He will be our next president, being placed into office in January. And so we're talking about just that piece, which, as Laria kind of brought up, just even the empathy of that, and which was a common theme of this book, but also just, again, us being in this state now where there is a lot of political unrest. And for the most part, the country is divided right now off of the results of this election. People had very strong stances and opinions about who they felt should have been placed in office, who should have won. And so, kind of just merging those two ideas. What are you guys' thoughts about, again, the election, and even more so Tyler's kind of notion of empathy and how that can really foster, I guess, humanity amongst others, considering that we're just fresh off this election? Like, what are your thoughts about those two ideas? Come on, Isaiah, next, man. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree with Laria. If you would have asked me a week ago, maybe I would have had more empathy. But right now, fresh off the election, I really don't. This election showed me who people was. They trying to play in my face. They tried to play in America's face. I don't think Kamala Harris actually didn't lose. I think America lost because they lost a good leader. It's unthinkable, instead of being able to just celebrate a hopeful new chapter in this country with a leader who just appealed to the brighter future, but instead we're holding a postmortem to this democracy over and over again. Why are we here again? And I thought we were better than this. Like Laria said, I thought that we had shared the same humanity. I believe just like you believe. We both want the best for our children. Both actually want the best for not just our children, but just for the future of our children's children. But we're here again, just really fighting for democracy. And as Black people, we are literally tired. Black people, we did the right thing. We always are on the right side, the majority of us. And the problem has never been us. For the next 4 years, instead of these internet wars on these relationships, we just need to focus on our communities. And the thing that I just need to understand, that I want people to understand, is election have consequences. And whatever happens in this country, the voter chose this person. So just buckle up, because you do not know what you're going to get when January hits. And one thing is clear, the Honorable John Lewis said, the one thing that Black people can do is, if we don't have a way, we will make a way out of a no way.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I just feel like these last few years, man, it's just been so surreal. It's just so much going on, and
you're tired.
Every turn, it's something new. It's just,
you're tired.
And I know we're living through history right now, but it just seems just so different. I'm still in awe that, this is life. This is where we are as a country, as a nation, as a world. It just I don't know, man. These last years just been rough, man. It's just weird. I don't know what to say besides it just being weird. So,
can you imagine when the history books are written, when people read what's happening now, they're did this actually happen? Did somebody actually get on the microphone and say this, and he's back again? What's going on? I think people are listening differently than what I'm listening to.
That's what I'm trying to figure. I'm am I crazy? This man done said all kinds of stuff. What? Because my thing is, you can believe whatever you want to believe.
You can,
but I do not agree with a candidate with felonies, with the way that he's talked about all these things. And, you know, it's amazing. And I'm going to let him talk. I'm sorry, but I'm going to just let me go and get this out. But look, I got to get this out. Somebody got to hear me.
Right.
But I just don't understand how we want our children to be these upstanding citizens and we want them to follow laws and do right. And we have somebody that clearly gets on a microphone, supposedly represents a Christian attitude and says, if this election didn't go this way, then you better look out because, you know, basically threatening violence. And these are supposed to be the Christians now. But when the non-Christians, quote unquote, that voted for Kamala didn't win, they're peaceful. So what are we doing here? You know, and don't get me started on the people who are saying you're not a Christian if you voted for Kamala Harris. I don't even want to talk to y'all. Look, don't get me started on that because it's like, I mean, it's just so many. We could just go down a rabbit hole of the issues and debate them and all of that. But once again, how do you justify to a child, you need to follow rules, you need to do these things because you want to be successful in life when you have this person who's cut every rule, done everything, you know, possible. Of course, he's going to have to answer to God, which I wouldn't want to have to do. But to, you know, to be the example and like Isaiah said, this is going to be in history books forever. You know, we've never had somebody with all of these things that have caused so much chaos and so much trouble. And then for a country, she lost big. This was like a unanimous vote. And I'm just like, what? These are the choices. And you really chose this? Like how? I'm just, it's baffling. I'm not shocked for some reason. But I'm just trying to understand and have an understanding of why. So, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm for real.
It's the empathy.
Well, all right. Miss Kimberly Lake, again, we kind of, I guess, piggybacking on this whole concept of empathy, which was at the forefront of the book, but also kind of tying it to just the fact that, you know, we're fresh off of this election and our country is, you know, very well divided at this point, you know, and politics usually does that. I mean, it's one of those things where it becomes a very touchy subject in the area. But just kind of want to hear your thoughts as far as the post-election aspect and also even, you know, Tyler Merritt's, I guess, concept of how empathy can breed humanity or, you know, kind of can highlight humanity by having that exposure or being in those different environments. So,
okay. I think he is right ideally about proximity. When you're around different people, it exposes you to them, you're able to empathize with them more. I think that is the ideal. But I think my problem with that is I always feel like I'm just talking from because I am Black, a Black person's perspective. I feel like I think Laria touched on it, and he touched on it at the beginning of the book, how the older white lady locked her doors and he was going through his head all the scenarios like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, you know, I'm cool. If you knew me, I was nice. And I feel like it is 2024 and I'm tired of the onus being on us to have to prove like our humanity. I mean, if you want to learn about other people, other cultures, you can Google, ChatGPT, get out your house, go on YouTube. And I think a lot of people stay willfully ignorant and even don't go out of their way to try to get to be in proximity with different types of people, to have empathy for them. And I think that segues into the election. I think our country is very divided. And I think it's so many people in their own little, as they used to say in the office, silos in a way. And I think people aren't willing to come out with their experiencing themselves to connect and see how things are affecting other people. So I think we just have a problem with a lot of people being selfish and not willing to come out of their bubble and really empathize with other people. Because when you empathize, you really change. Like things change. Like you can't empathize with someone and stay the same. So I think that's the issue we're having. And I'm just tired. I'm just like over like having to educate, other races about it. I'm like, it's 2024. If you want to know, you can really do the work and really get down here with us. So that's how I feel about that. Even with the election, I really wasn't shocked too much. I follow Teslin Figaro, and I mean, she said like the first thing she said when she was nominated, she was like, I'm not trying to like bust people's bubble, but she's like, this is America. This is a Black woman. She's like, if they ain't vote Hillary in, she's like, it's that's just how, she was just being realistic about how things are. So for me, the election, I was just like, okay, I wasn't too shocked by it. So
yeah. Now you guys bring up good points, and Kim, you really, I think, kind of hit the nail on the head. So if you aren't taking the active measures of, being exposed and being, immersed in different ideas, then of course, like whatever confirmation bias you have of your own little social circle, like it's never going to change. So if you are only surrounding yourself around the people that always think like you and do the things you do and being in those same social circles, then there is no empathy of you having even, any consciousness of other thoughts or mindsets, because you're so immersed in your own little bubble that everyone is affirming what you believe because you only associate with those like-minded or similar people. And not to say that you can't do that, but we should all, as a nation that's been premised on us being a melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds, and an immigrant nation where people have come from all over to form this great nation. Like, if that's the foundation of who we are as a country, like we have to still take those proactive steps to really try to understand and grow and learn about other people and not be so stuck in our ways. And even to your point about Tyler, and I think you all kind of touched on it, like that does get taxing to always have to go the extra mile as a person to try to make someone else feel comfortable. Like I should have the same rights they have, but I'm having to almost try to appease someone else to make them feel at ease about me. Again, it's based off just completely on a perception of what I may look like or what you may think of me or what, career field or industry I may be in. Like, and it's a lot. So, but definitely appreciate you guys talking on this subject. Again, it's necessary to have these discussions. It's necessary to kind of, bring these things to the forefront, and hopefully our listening and viewing artists can kind of, chime in as well. Hit us up in the comments with your thoughts and opinions of as far as the election, just empathy as a nation, as a country, or even just in your social groups as well. But good discussion. So again, the book for November, I Take My Coffee Black, Tyler Merritt. 2 5, 9, and a 7.
I know Kim trying to renege.
No, that's what Isaiah, for Isaiah's sake.
L'Real's a 9. Kim's an 8.
I'm not an 8 now. I'm not an 8.
Kim's trying to get some Tyler Merritt play on this segregated Sunday, which I get it. But yeah, Tyler, if you watch it, man, go check out her documentary. It's good. And I had a discussion about the election of November. So again, Donald Trump will be our next president here in the United States of America.
Help us, Jesus.
Regardless of what you may or may not feel about it, it's done now. So let's all continue to do our part. So, we've mentioned before, we're very strong proponents of voting here on Four Friends in the Book. So if you didn't participate in this election, you can't really complain. Like, you didn't do your part if you didn't show up. So again, those local, city and state elections are just as important. So, there's opportunities throughout for you to, really utilize your voice in those arenas. So, all right, time to transition a little bit, so it wouldn't be a show without it. Our favorite segment of Four Friends in a Book, which we entitle The Rant. give my good brother Isaiah 60 seconds to speak from his heart. Like, he just talk about whatever's on his mind, whatever he's feeling. Like, he might talk about what we just talked about, because I'm pretty sure he feeling a certain way about his election. But we don't interrupt him. We don't debate it. We don't contest it at all. We just give him the floor to speak his mind and flow freely. So, brother, the floor is yours once again. 60 seconds uninterrupted, starting now. Go.
After this election, I just want everybody to remember that self-care matters. And what's the point of working nonstop, stressing to reach goals so you can enjoy a better life if you end up destroying yourself trying to get there? Because when it's all over, none of this stuff is going to matter. So in the meantime, all you can ever do is what's best for you. And it's really everybody's opinion about what you're doing and will always be irrelevant. It always has been and it always will be. And I'd rather much in every situation in life be the person who's being talked about than be the person who's doing the talking, because self-care looks different for everyone. Mine looks like isolation, solo trips, and a backpack. And that's that on that.
All right. So, Isaiah, tell them what we have coming up for next month on Four Friends in a Book podcast.
Hey, guys, before we let you go and before you start your holiday cheer, please join us next episode as we read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. The Real, please let the viewers know when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday of every month. We'll be right here with a new book, something great to talk about. Of course, you heard the rant, all the great things. So come back every third Thursday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on wherever you're watching and other shows, other places.
Yes, and our podcast is available on all streaming platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and leave us a comment about how you enjoyed the episode. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram.
Most definitely, guys. And once again, we just appreciate you guys for rocking with us here on Four Friends in a Book podcast. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow, let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in a Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.